Right, I'm off now. Bye.
Bye. Cheerio.
From us down here at the studios on this very special Christmas celebration. It's the Christmas edition of Bullseye. We've got a superb audience in. Hope you had a nice time at home. Did you have a nice Christmas? Yeah! Great. And what a year we had, didn't we? 1987.
Bring me my boots and grappling iron. Bring me me mighty JCB. Bring me my spade, all ecstasy. Bring me my gallant flask of tea. I will not flinch from the seas of mud, nor shall my sludged bones idly stand, till we've restored the waterways through England's green and pleasant land.
What did you do between Christmas and New Year? How did you spend Easter? For some, such holidays and many weekends in between are an opportunity for work. They're part of a growing body of conservation volunteers who give up their free time to improve our environment. This lot are members of the Waterway Recovery Group, Waterways for short, committed to restoring Britain's waterways to their former glory. Their task is a daunting one. This forgotten, reedy backwater was once a busy waterway, 70 years ago. This is the Montgomery Canal, situated in that quiet corner of Britain where England meets Wales.
We're here. Stop. Lay down. Lay down.
As part of the Shropshire Union Canal system, the Monty would, if restored, play a vital role in attracting hire boats down from the Llangollen, the busiest canal in the country, bringing the boats to Newtown, 33 miles to the south. But the Montgomery's abandonment in 1944 allowed the highway authorities to flatten bridges to improve the roads. In this way, and others, the canal has been snipped into more than 15 bits. Undaunted, enthusiasts have worked to open up isolated sections along its length, and they have long campaigned for full restoration. Now, a parliamentary bill authorising reopening the canal has been passed. But that day still seems some way off at the Queen's Head locks.
Well, basically what is happening is that we need to put the stop planks in order that we can pump the water out of here to get into the lock chamber to remove the silt. But at the moment, the stop planks are not going down to the bottom. So we're having to sort of modify the system until we can get the stop planks to the bottom to sit on the sill.
It's waterproof. It says in the handbook. Might as well find out while it's under guarantee, eh?
Deep breath.
Think of England.
He's taking his clothes off so that he can actually go into the canal, which is up to chest height, to get the rope underneath the stop plank, which is jammed because the sides come in further than we thought.
The stopping plank is slightly too wide, and looks like previously the brick has been pointed, and they've left mortar sort of overlapping, so it's a rough finish, and the running grooves are slightly blocked up. And if we leave them in overnight, the wood's going to swell and we'll never get it out. What's the temperature of water like today? I think it's slightly better than it was yesterday.
Yes, it moves.
Yesterday I was standing on the plank and I lost my balance. I went straight under, and then the rope on the harness took up as soon as I hit the bottom. went tight. So I wasn't very happy with the rope man. So today I learnt my lesson and came in short.
That's got to be a hero of the Soviet Union, third class with oak leaves award, that has, for going in there.
The accommodation arranged for conservation volunteers is basic, but what it lacks in comfort, it makes up for in togetherness. This is an average church hall, where volunteers can enjoy a hard floor and some vieille cuisine for a very reasonable price.
On average, they're paying about £3 a day, and there's about 20 people in this camp, and they're eating about £6 of mince per meal, and plenty of potatoes and bread. I originally started in doing my Duke of Edinburgh, and that was sort of way back in 1983, I think it was. And I was just sort of gradually progressed into doing the catering. It's yeah, it's a worthwhile job, I suppose, feeding this lot.
Yeah. I've been doing this for 10 years now. Today was the anniversary. 10 years ago I went away on a winter work camp, simply because my brother dragged me down. I'd been having a usual family Christmas, and he suddenly turned around and said, "Come on, you're going on a work camp." I was fairly young at the time and impressionable, and I think it made an impression on me. As a result, I've been doing it for 10 years now, and it's I keep going back simply because it's such a good time.
I did it for the Duke of Edinburgh Gold Award. As a residential project, you have to go away for a week with nobody you know and try and get on with people. That was on Basingstoke, and I really enjoyed that. And I've been back for a weekend since, and then I thought I might as well go further afield, so I came up here.
I didn't know what I was going to see, but there seemed to be a nice social side. I got on with the people, and it clicked. And there I am, been 15 years later, still doing it.
Everybody seems to have got younger, I think. People say, you know, go and move those rocks, go and do this, and I enjoy doing it. And I really wind down for a week, or however long the work camp is. We do believe, from what we've found, that these gates were actually put in around about the 1890 era, and this is what we're having to take out now.
Hang on. Is it bottom one again? Down.
Yeah.
You always retreat into the paddle opening.
Can you support it back while I get underneath?
Hang on. Have to rub the rope back this side. Down the rope back here a minute. The kennel's rotted out at the bottom.
Yeah.
And maybe we can crowbar it away from here. But at least that's solid metal there. We can get something to purchase on. Has anybody got the crowbar?
Yeah.
Right, she's got it. Get another grip. Hang on. Right.
Because of the relatively unsafeness of them, we're taking them out by sawing them in bits and pieces and pulling them up on a rope in manageable parts. The wood is very rotten, and we haven't got the equipment to haul them out in one go. We'd need a set of shear legs to do it, which we don't have. So we've done them the next best thing by getting it flat onto the bed of the entrance to the lock, and this enables us to work in a safe manner and take it apart in small pieces.
Up at the top of the Queen's Head flight, things are going swimmingly. Clearing silt and worse from a lock chamber. This is meat and drink to a Worgley. And here, along with the evenings in the pub, is an excellent place to meet people and make friends.
We come down to the cut each week to pull our weight together. We dig and drain and cut and clear in every kind of weather. You may ask why, may ask what for, we'll tell you everyone. Without its navvies working here, it never would get done.
So shovel it, paddle it, and muck about, clear it out, move on down, and mend those balls, patch them up before they fall.
We're all well known for grafting hard, and we can tell some tales. But once we're done at the end of the day, we like to soap our ale. We're broken records, drunk pubs dry, for landlords we're a godsend. It's back to work on Monday morning, back to the cup next weekend. So
shovel it, paddle it, and muck about, clear it out, move on down, and mend those balls, patch them up before they fall.
They are dumping into a skip because fears of pollutants in the sludge have put restrictions on the normal way of working. Flushing or dumping into the cut below the lock might kill the rare plants that have earned this bit of the canal the status of a site of special scientific interest. The wildlife of the canal is David North's concern, an aspect of the Montgomery that may not be a beneficiary of restoration.
For many years, the Montgomery Canal's been rather a forgotten backwater, and consequently it's become very important for wildlife. Historically, it was built in the 1790s. It took rather a long time to build. They didn't finish it until the 1820s. And in fact, the aqueduct that we're standing on collapsed immediately after they built it and had to be rebuilt. It has interest both because of rare plants and also because of the general diversity of the more common plants found along the corridor. The rarities include plants like the floating leaved water plantain, which is confined in Britain to disused canals, and the grass wrack pondweed, which is only found on this site in the whole of Wales. So they are genuinely nationally rare plants. Since the canal was closed in 1944, its interest for wildlife has increased. Not just the nationally rare plants, which I've talked about, but also for various invertebrates, particularly the dragonflies. 15 species of dragonfly are found on the Montgomery Canal. Evocative names like the chaser, the hawker and the darter. And had we been here on a warm, still June day, there would have been large numbers of the dragonflies and the smaller damselflies. It's also important as a corridor for birds. The distribution of the sedge warbler and the reed bunting in Montgomeryshire more or less mirror the corridor of the canal. And of course, moorhens and several pairs of mute swans nest alongside the canal. Also, animals use the canal. It's a feeding site for otters. Undoubtedly, the otters would be using the river beneath us now. You can find Spraint very often under the aqueduct that we're standing on here. And the otters do come onto the canal at night to feed on the fish, this being a more productive coarse fishery than the river system. Also important are the number of grass snakes found along the canal. It's possibly the best site in Wales for grass snakes, certainly the best site in Montgomeryshire. The trust which I work for, the Montgomeryshire Wildlife Trust, was very concerned when we heard that the canal was going to be restored for navigation about the impact that this boating would have on the various groups of wildlife presently found on the canal. As soon as you get any level of boat traffic above 1 or 2 passages a day, on a clay-lined canal like the Montgomery, silt is stirred up off the bottom, and because of this turbidity of the water, the light can't penetrate, and rapidly you lose these species, particularly the rare ones, which need specialised conditions. So it has a rather disastrous impact on the aquatic part of the flora. The other factor is, of course, the nests of the birds. The moorhens and the mallard can be swamped if boats travel too fast along the canal because of the wake of the boat.
Clearly, the full restoration of the canal and the arrival of the boats will be detrimental to the rarer species of wildlife. But here at Wern, the environmentalists and Waterways engineers have got together to seek a solution, and a head-on clash between the restorers and conservationists has been averted. Canal water flows at a controlled rate into a new channel where no boats will be allowed. By transplanting the rarities into this and some 17 other offline reserves, it is hoped they will be saved. Elsewhere in the country, solutions have been harder to come by, and many groups with an interest in keeping their rivers and canals private have rallied behind the environmentalist flag to try to defeat the ambitions of the restorers. Discussions have become heated, with the Waterway Recovery Group being labelled in the press as environmental vandals.
The problem of conservation versus restoration is one that troubles me a lot, particularly because I personally fiercely resent it being suggested that conservationists and us are on opposite sides. We are conservationists. We've been conservationists for 40 years, and without the restorers of canals, there would be many hundreds of miles of canal which run through urban areas and provide their only source of wildlife and interest, which simply wouldn't exist. The Cheshire Ring, for instance, the Calden Canal, the Huddersfield Narrow Canal, the Rochdale Canal, the Kennet and Avon Canal, the Basingstoke Canal, all of these would be just derelict and mouldering away. And all of them are and will be interesting habitats, and it troubles me a lot to hear conservationists decry what we do and say that we're spoiling things. We think that we're recreating, rebuilding, and certainly we see ourselves as conservationists.
Day 6 of the work camp, and at the top of the flight they are starting to dump the remains of the sludge on the side of the lock. That's because they've filled up the skip. Just at the moment, Jonathan Briggs, British Waterways Board Conservation Officer, turns up to inspect the work. He has plans for the adjacent field to become an offline reserve, and he's worried that if they dump polluted sludge too close, the field may be ruined.
Right. I'll go to the room then. Right out. Neil Palmer.
Close, Mike Palmer.
Mike Palmer, yes.
I want to show you your hand. I'm a bit...
Right. Jonathan Briggs, Waterways Board Conservation Officer. Good to see how you're getting on.
Well, we're trying to be good boys. We're trying to keep it all as per instructions, basically. We've been given certain instructions on what we're allowed to do. We're trying to follow those.
You've actually been not tipping into the cut. You've been tipping into the
stuff here is, because this is a SSI, SSSI, we've got to dump it into a skip over there, which we've been doing. Certainly all the heavy, horrible stuff to be dumped off at another dump, because we can't leave it laying around, we can't put it into the cut further down. But this stuff is all just straight fertile silt, so we've been told we can level off the ground here, dig it off, fill it here, keeping it out of the hedge.
Yeah, don't put it in the field, whatever you do, we're going to have that as a reserve.
Yeah, well, we're not.
We're
ensuring that we're blocking it off.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll solidify out with those final boards out.
It's a long time since this lot's in the light of day.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, excuse me, I'll lift that up.
Right.
Right.
Explain to this lot what the conservation problem is here.
Well, we know that it's a triple SI.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually said any particular reason, have we? Nobody's actually said why.
No. Well,
why?
It's just got, basically there are some rare aquatic plants in this length which won't survive restoration, in fact, but we will be having a reserve in this field, and hopefully we'll get growing there what we got growing there. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to have a reserve in the field adjacent here, where we will have a system similar to that of the Wern Reserve, a sort of mock canal channel fed by canal water and meandering through the field such that you get as long a length as possible. And we can then have both the boating and the aquatic plants in harmony, which is something that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Having your cake and eating it. That's what they're all striving for on the Monty. And the Waterway Recovery Group are doing their bit and are justly proud of the Frankton locks they restored at the junction with the Llangollen Canal. Waiting patiently for the day when the canal is open to boats once again, the lock chambers stand empty.
Certainly a lot different to it was 10 years ago. This was all rubble and absolutely full of trees and mud and everything.
I can remember looking down at the bywash just below the bottom gate there and suddenly seeing this person appear backwards with a bucket full of soil, and these two amazing people who were very young, because I don't think anyone else would have done it, actually cleared out the whole lot with a bucket in a week, and this pile of soil and refuse just grew and grew and grew. But they stuck at it and they cleared it out. It's something like escaping from colditz.
The first time I saw these locks was the opening ceremony, and to see them fully operational, full of water, big marquee, lots of people running around, it was, look, they were brand new. It was incredible. And to go on to the next site we're starting on and see the state of those and think these were worse, you just can't believe what was achieved by what was basically volunteers with a small professional help.
Our critics have, in the past, accused us of doing poor work and saying that voluntary restoration is chewing gum and plywood. Well, the work at Frankton is to the very highest standard. I think I could safely say that Frankton is restored to a higher standard than it was originally built to. And we are very proud of what we do, and certainly it isn't a matter of handing over to the professionals. We will see this restoration through of all 3 locks. The site is basically not as hopeful as we would have wished. We are doing really an exploratory piece of work to assess the amount of restoration work which will be necessary on the locks, and from what we've seen today, it would appear that it's going to be rather more than we wished. A number of trees have grown through the brickwork, and the result is that they have pushed courses of brickwork out and up and down, and it isn't now just a matter of sawing out the trees and pointing. We're going to have to demolish quite a lot of brickwork and then rebuild it, simply to make the structure sound again.
I don't know why I'm interested in the canals. I just find them very enjoyable, very relaxing. And I suppose I feel that I have canal holidays on boats, that it's important to put something back.
The more canals we can get, then the greater scope will be for more people to enjoy them. Not just people on boats, but fishermen, people who enjoy walking, naturalists, because they become linear parks within the country. And this is really why we're restoring them, because there's so much to do, so much that can be done.
And Nabby worked down on the cud, the rain was pouring down. He shoveled mud and SH1, the clearing out the pound. Did he complain about his lot? No, he smiled all through the day. And at the end he packed his bag, and this I heard him say:
Mud in your eye, we love the filthy stuff. Mud in your eye, we can never have enough. People stand and stare at us and often ask us why. We answer them by turning round and saying: Mud in your eye, we love the filthy stuff. Mud in your eye, we can never have enough. People stand and stare at us and often ask us why. We answer them by turning round and saying: Mud in your eye.
We'd welcome new volunteers from every field, whether they be full-time employees or students. We'd be especially pleased to see people who are interested in the environment in general, because one of the things that WERG is proud of is that we are improving the environment for the goodness of everybody.